today we have with us Antonio Ranieri, president of Solar is Freedom, and we are going to find out some of the details about how solar power works and how it can work for an individual. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you.
All right, I have a lot of questions for you.
Great.
Let's just start with the very basics. How does solar power work?
Okay, so obviously the sun makes the energy. So you put a solar panel on top of your roof or in your yard, a roof mount or a ground mount system, and the photovoltaic cells actually collect that energy from the sun's rays. And very simply, that energy gets converted from DC into AC, and then when the energy gets converted, it's converted into usable energy, just like the energy that you use inside your home, and that energy goes back into the grid. The energy company buys that energy back from you, and you get credit for what the solar panels have produced on top of your house, on top of your roof, in your yard.
So instead of getting energy through the wires from the energy company, you are getting it converted from the panels on your roof, enough for your house, and maybe even extra to go back through the wires the other way.
Correct.
Okay.
So you're using the energy inside of your home that the solar panels produce.
Okay.
And then the nice thing is that you're still connected to the grid. So you can pull energy from the grid when you need it if it's a cloudy day, so you don't lose power in your home and your lights don't go out. But then if you do produce more energy, then that energy goes back to the energy company. The energy company buys that from you, and that's the definition of net metering. That may be one of your questions, but that's how solar works.
Okay.
And then, depending on which direction your house faces and how much tree coverage you have and stuff like that, that'll determine the efficiency of the system. And that's. But to answer the basic question, how does it work? Collects the energy from the sun. It gives that energy, you run your house off of that, and it gives the excess back to the energy company, and they pay you for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That covers it. That's
pretty easy. Yes.
So what's the difference between grid tied? You talk about taking from the grid, giving back to the grid. What's
Correct.
the difference between grid tied and off grid?
So with a grid tied system, what you're doing is kind of what we just discussed. I think that the definition to what was a solar panel, we kind of got into it a little bit. But a grid tied system means you're producing energy. That energy is going back out into the grid. So you're basically cycling energy coming in from the grid as you need it, and then the energy that the solar produces going back out to the energy company that they purchase from you. That's a grid tied system. So that means if the solar's not producing enough energy to run your whole house, let's just say you have a large house and you have a hot tub and a pool, and the energy that the solar is producing, the energy company's buying all that back from you, but you're still connected to the grid. So you don't lose power when it's nighttime or when the sun's out. And as far as an off-grid system, the definition of an off-grid system would mean the solar panels themselves, they would actually charge a battery bank. A battery bank would then power your home consistently, so you're not connected to the grid at all. So completely off-grid system basically means, you have batteries that are being charged. You're using the energy during the day that the solar panels are creating to power your home, but it's also simultaneously charging a battery. Then once the battery's charged, there's no sunlight. Your home runs off of the battery bank.
Okay.
So that would be the difference between a grid-tied and an off-grid system.
Okay, so just to make sure I'm hearing it correctly.
Yeah.
If it's grid tied, you're powering your house, but also any extra may go back to
Correct.
through the lines
Yep.
to the grid. But it also means if there's not enough power for your house, you can pull it
Correct.
out of the grid.
Correct.
If you are
Yep.
off grid, you power your house, and instead of sending energy back through power lines, you're
Yep.
charging a battery for non-sunny times.
Correct.
Whether
Yes.
it's nighttime or cloudy days or
Exactly.
something like that.
The challenge with an off-grid system is that you really need to account for the maximum amount of energy you're going to use at any one given time. So with a grid-tied system, we can design the system so that it's about 90 to 100% of what you use on a daily basis. With an off-grid system, we have to go over that 100% threshold because really there'll be one day of the year that you use the most energy of the 365 days. So we need to make a system that's going to produce enough energy to run your house when it's cloudy for a week, or you get some snow, or in the wintertime when we don't get enough sunlight. So you have to have a larger size system when it's an off-grid system, just so that you don't lose power.
makes sense.
But there are also, in between grid tied and off-grid systems, we do all the time, we do combinations between battery backup systems with backup generators. We do battery backup systems with grid tied systems. So you can still have a battery, which would mean if the power goes out, so the grid goes down, then your solar charged battery would then run your home. So, and there's essentially an infinite number of possibilities in that space. You can run certain appliances, you can run your whole house, but that's kind of, there's the grid tied system, which is the most popular or the most common thing that we do. They're the completely off-grid option, and then there's basically an infinite number of options in between, so that you can basically say, hey, look, we lose power a lot. We would like to have a system that runs our house when the power's out. We can do that too, which is basically still a grid-tied system, but with a battery backup, with a backup generator, all working together.
Okay, yeah. Excellent. So it's not just one or the other.
Correct.
It really can be designed to match whatever specific situation somebody has.
Correct.
Which is really great. So here's a question a lot of people would be thinking then after hearing these things: is solar right for my property? How do we know?
So as an organization, what we do and what we focus on primarily is, and what I tell the people that I sit down with is education. And so if you were to call me and say, hey, I would like to know if solar is going to make sense, what we would do as an organization, we would send out a representative that would come do a comprehensive evaluation of your property. That's 100% free of charge. So when we come out, I would say about 80% of the people that we see, they would qualify for a solar project. So that 20% would be, hey, I don't have the right type of roof, or my house doesn't face the right way, or I live underneath a canopy of trees, or so if you really want to know if solar does make sense, it's a good idea to have somebody come out, do an evaluation, and it's obviously completely free, and it's an educational, it's the educational part of the process. So what we don't want to do is we don't want to put solar on your house if solar doesn't make sense for you. So the first step for us as a company is, hey, is solar going to make sense on this property? And then we create, the cost and how many panels you would need, system size, and all of those things, how much energy you can produce, and we give pretty accurate estimations on what your system will actually do. We look at your energy bill. We do all of those things. So we take in, there's a long list of things that we take into account to determine, hey, does solar make sense? And then we build in all those other things, like how many panels you would need, how much of your bill would cover, and then also, would a battery make sense? Do I want to go off-grid or grid-tied, things like that. Yeah.
So it sounds like that's the first step before even worrying about any of these problems. Any choices, should I be off-grid, should I be grid-tied? Any of these conversations happen after have someone come out and look at your house and see if you are in that small little 20% and it's maybe not going to fit on your house, or if you are, and what's going to be specifically best suited for your house, so you can go forward from there.
Correct. That's the first step. Okay. Yeah. And I think that it's very important to know that if solar doesn't make sense for you, we're not going to tell you to put it on your property. And that's important. I think that you want to be able to know for sure if it makes sense first. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So a lot of people thinking at this point, I hear about environment and I'm trying to make good environmental choices. Yeah. How will solar investment impact the environment?
Well, so as a company, Solar is Freedom, we have already reduced over 1 trillion watt hours of dirty energy from being created because of the systems that we've installed as a company already, we're pretty proud of that. For the individual, the actual equipment that we put on your property, you'll be able to see in real time. You'll be able to see data that says how many, how much CO2 emissions have I reduced, how many trees have I planted. So for people who are environmentally conscious, the products that we install are very hands-on. So you'll get a very good idea. You'll have that data, and it'll be very clear as to what you're actually saving and what your environmental impact is with each individual system. And then when you add them all up, we get a very large collection of how many trees we've saved and all of this. Yeah.
That's nice way to make concrete the abstract concept of what difference am I making?
Yes.
And we don't think about it when we get energy through our wires at home from mainstream sources. A lot of that is generated with coal production and combustion. And so every one of these that gets put in is one more house that they're not having to buy that energy created with coal for. So that's an impact. It adds up.
Well, and we primarily work with small business owners and homeowners, and really our company's mission statement, we get to change the world one property at a time. So that's very important for us as an organization. And I think I would say that when I sit down with a homeowner, we focus on, as an organization, what's going to be the financial ramifications for me as an individual. Is this going to save me money? And I know we're going to get to that later, but from an environmental standpoint, it's the huge impact with each individual system.
Absolutely. And a lot of people are wondering, how can one person have an impact? So this is one of the ways.
Absolutely. Yes.
How much does a solar panel system cost?
The average size system that we install is right around $25,000.
Okay.
So with the tax incentives and things like that, the out-of-pocket cost is it's significantly reduced, up to 25 to 30% of that overall cost. And then, you're also exchanging that cost, or you're subbing out the cost of a solar array, or you're subbing out the cost of your electricity bill for the cost of solar. So really, when someone asks me what's the overall cost, usually we're actually able to either match or beat that customer's electricity bill. So if you're paying $200 a month for electricity, you can install a solar array, and I know that $25,000. That's the real answer. That's how much a solar array costs. You can take tax incentives and depreciation and things like that off the overall cost. But when you finance that system, if you're paying $200 a month for your electricity bill, you can finance a solar array for $180 a month. So really, the cost is it's an infinite return. So you're immediately, the minute that system becomes activated through your energy company and you're getting credit, the minute that happens, you're saving $20 a month indefinitely.
So there is the cost. It's for something we are already spending money on.
Correct.
So we get to remove what we're spending the money on and just replace it with something that long term is going to continue to save us money. And you mentioned incentives. What incentives are currently available for solar installations?
So right now there's a 26% federal tax credit. There's also what's called a solar renewable energy credit that you get from the state of Ohio and the state of Kentucky. It's not a tremendous amount, but you can still sign up through the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio, get credit for, your solar array will produce credits. Those credits do have a value, and you can kind of trade them like stocks. And then if you are a small business owner, you can use accelerated depreciation to depreciate the value of the system. And I think right now that's up to around, depending on your tax classification, up to an additional 30%. So if a small business would like to install a solar project, we can get them in the 56% of the overall cost of the project off on their taxes. And it's not a tax deduction; it's a tax credit. So you would actually get that as up to your tax appetite. You would get the full value of what you've spent of that 56%.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
How long does it take usually to recover an initial investment in solar system?
We see that in the 5 to 7 year range. So I would say 7 to 10 years on the very longest. That would be, so you would have that $180 a month payment. You would make that payment, and then after that 10-year period has eclipsed, then the system has essentially paid for itself for what you've saved on your energy bills. We see about a 4% increase per year on the increase in electric cost. So on average, you'll see in about a 10-year period, your energy bill is going to go up about 40%. So when you factor that increase in, the system pays for itself. Really, it depends how quickly do your energy bills, how quickly do your energy rates go up. If your energy rates go up, which according to the U.S. Department of Energy, being that we're in coal-heavy or non-renewable states, energy rates could go up as high as 10% per year. And if you're if your energy bill is 100% higher in 10 years, your energy bill is doubled. If it goes from a $200 bill to a $400 bill, that $25,000 initial investment gets paid for very quickly. You're spending $4,000 just per year over a 10-year period. At that rate, you'd be spending $40,000 on your energy bill, which is almost double what your original investment was before the tax incentives.
Oh, true. And so
Yeah.
really, the more expensive traditional energy gets, the faster you're really going to feel the benefit of those solar panels.
Exactly. Yep.
How long does it take to install a typical solar array?
For the average home, we would do one day where we would come out, we would put the solar panels on the house, and then we would schedule one additional day to do the electrical work. So it would be one day on the short end. But if we're doing a large project on a farm or something that involves a trench or things like that, I would say it takes about a week would be the longest that we would be out at the property. But most of our installs would be a 2-day process. One day to put the panels on and then one day to connect it to the grid.
So that's not a long construction project we're looking at.
Absolutely. It's at this point, we are installing between 15 and 20 of these projects per week.
Oh, wow.
As a company.
Okay.
So we have a very systematic approach to putting this product on our customers' homes. Yeah.
How long will that solar array last once it's installed?
So one of the things that's unique to our organization is that we give a comprehensive in-house 25-year warranty on all of our products. That would be our products and our labor. So if in that 25-year period there's something that's not functioning properly, we come out, we fix it for free.
Oh, great. Well, that pretty much answers
Yeah.
and that's the concern, is
Yes.
that if I put these up there and they're great, how long will it be before I need to worry about them? And that's 25 years. That the answer is
Yes.
not at all. That's great.
Well, and from our perspective, we kind of think of it as like a 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Just because you hit 101,000 miles doesn't mean the wheels fall off of your car. So really, if you put a solar array on today, there are solar projects that were installed in the 60s and in the 70s that are still functioning properly now. They're not producing at the same level that they were, but it still works. So you can expect for at least a minimum of a 30-year period for the system to be functioning properly.
That's important to know. The warranty has a certain number on it, but that doesn't mean that's necessarily the
Correct.
end time for
Yeah.
that product.
Correct.
So tell me why now is a really good time to install solar panels.
Well, in our region, being the Midwest, and more specifically Southern Ohio, Northern Kentucky, and we also work in Columbus and Louisville, Lexington as well, we are kind of at a stage in the process where the real big solar movement hasn't come here yet. And when that movement does move in, when that does come into the area, you're talking about a very high level of competition. The market changes drastically, and the pricing goes up. So right now, in addition to the fact that there's a 26% federal tax credit today, so you'd be able to get over a quarter of the system paid for by the federal government. In addition to that, we're in a space right now where you would be beating the wave of the kind of the advent of the renewable energy age in our market. And in other markets where energy rates are higher, in other markets where there's a more competitive landscape, the cost to put on a solar project in those markets is significantly higher than what it is here. And to do a solar project now, you're basically insulating yourself from the big wave. You would be an early adopter at this point. Being an early adopter and being ahead of the game has its financial advantages. So doing solar now makes financial sense.
And you start recouping your energy savings sooner, which is always good.
Exactly.
And those tax credits may not always be there, so we want to catch them when they're there.
The credit goes down from 26% to 22%. And then I think it goes to 20%, and then it goes away altogether.
Okay.
So we really only have 3 more years where there's going to be a credit available.
Okay, so that's a good reason why now is a good time.
It's
right
a great
there.
reason.
But
Yeah.
as it becomes more in demand, companies will be able to charge more to do this. So
Correct.
we
Yeah.
want to do it now before that happens. So here's a question I think a lot of people will have, and I know we talked about it a little bit, but Will I lose power when my panels are not producing, when it's cloudy, when it's nighttime?
So when going back to what we talked about before, with a grid tied system, you produce that energy. That energy gets bought back from the energy company. When the sun's out, your house will be running off of a solar project. But when it's nighttime, you still are connected to the grid. So you still have the full availability and the amenities of being part of the utility company or a customer of the utility company. So at nighttime, solar's not producing anything. You're just not putting any energy back into the grid, but you're still running and powering your home from the power lines that are connected to your property. And then that's where, if you move into the space where it's an off-grid system, you would have a battery bank that would be running your house at night. So the answer to that question is a little different depending on what type of system you have, but no, you don't lose power at night or when the sun is out.
The bottom line is you can still watch TV.
Not out.
It just depends on if you're hooked up to the grid and you'll be watching TV powered by that.
Correct.
Or if you'll be off the grid and you'll be watching it from that battery you were charging during the day.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
What are the different payment options people have when they look at doing this?
So what we like to do is and this is again going back to something that we talked about before, what we really like to do is we like to, if you pay $200 a month for your electricity, we like to be lower than that. So we want you to save money immediately. So we offer a variety of financing options from same as cash options. We offer a 20-year financing term, a 12-year financing term, a 10-year. I mean, really, if you want to have a solar project on your property, we can make it affordable and make it make sense for you. And that's we also cover some of that in that initial evaluation where we talk about what are your goals for the project. Do you want to have the system in 3 years? Do you want to have no payment for the system, or or would you like to? Hey, I pay $200 a month. I want to pay $180. That's. So we fit the financing packages to the needs of the person that we're doing the project for.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know we've alluded to this in some other questions. How does the system work during the winter when it's dark all the time, or at night?
So really, it's just you produce less energy during the months when we get less sunlight. Now the actual the arc of usage for the average homeowner, you're going to use significantly more electricity in the summertime than you would in the winter. Usually you're using gas heat in the summer or in the winter, and then you're using your electricity to run your AC in the summertime. So the actual curve of solar production, it mirrors the usage for most homeowners. So in the winter months when you're not producing as much, you're also not using as much electricity. If you do have an all-electric home or electric heat, then in the winter months you just we will be covering a smaller portion of your total bill. So daytime you're going to be producing the energy. That energy is getting put back into the grid. At nighttime, you're drawing energy from the grid, and that's the definition of net metering, which net metering is where the energy company is required to buy that energy that you overproduce back.
That's a good thought that we get more sunshine in the very same time of year that we use more energy.
Correct.
Which is awfully convenient, and it makes this particularly well suited. In the winter, most of us, if we don't have electric heat, are not using as much electricity. So it's fine that there's fewer hours of sunlight for the most part. But also, you're either connected to the grid for backup or you have a battery.
Yes.
So you're still covered.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Will someone using a solar panel system need any extra batteries? What will they need for this?
So our solution is turnkey from A to Z. So if I were to come out, I take a look at your property, we determine that solar makes sense for you, then we would come back with a comprehensive solution. That solution that we would present to you, that solution would not have anything extra that would be associated with it. You would have to, you wouldn't have to. You choose to do a solar project with us. At that point, there isn't anything else that you need to do except sign your interconnection agreement with your energy company.
Okay, so if you decide someone needs a battery or they decide they want a battery for backup, that will be part of the design in the project.
Exactly.
They may decide they don't need a battery because they're going to stay connected to the grid for any kind of backup.
Well, I will say, so the reason why a grid-tied system is the most popular choice, vastly the most popular choice, is because the thing that we do as much as we do solar is we bring value to the table. So when I say, hey, look, your electricity bill is 200, the solar array is going to cover 100% of your bill. The payment for the solar is going to be 180. You're immediately saving money. So our goal for every single one of the people that we sit down with is we want to give you something that makes financial sense. So when you start adding in, you could get a Powerwall, or which is a type of battery. You could get a charging port for an electric vehicle. There are a lot of you can get monitoring devices, like a Sense monitoring device that will track the output of every single outlet in your home. Okay. So there are things that you can add into the project, like a battery, that will increase the cost. So the reason why we typically don't recommend to do a battery is because most of the time people don't lose power. And if they do, it's for a very short period of time. So if a battery increases the cost of the system tremendously, and you only lose power twice a year, it might not make sense for you to do a battery. And that's the case for most of the people that we see. Really, a battery is more of a luxury item, and we don't sell luxury products. Okay. We sell practical products that save people money.
Okay, so that's a really good answer to that. Will I need batteries? Is you don't need them, but you can have them. You can pay extra for them if you want them, but they're not a requirement to make the system work, which I think is important for people to know.
We install batteries on a weekly basis, okay. But if the product that we deliver to a homeowner, even more so than a solar project, we give the homeowner an ability to control their own energy future, to create a levelized cost per kilowatt hour for the energy that they need in their home. And when you purchase a solar project, every kilowatt hour that system produces will cost you the same amount. When your energy company sends you a new bill next month and it's double what your bill is now, why am I getting charged more money in January than I was in December? Well, we're cleaning up coal ash, or we're a fake, the energy companies are federally regulated and subsidized industries, so their profit margins are guaranteed. If they spend money on something, then
we'll just get an extra fee in our bill to cover whatever that is. It just
gets rolled right back into your bill, right. And all of those costs get passed along to the end user. When you purchase a solar project, the per kilowatt hour rate is the exact same, the entire life expectancy of the system. But once the system's paid for, your per kilowatt hour price goes to zero.
That's important because I think a lot of people don't look at their energy bills as closely as you're looking at them, to see that if they actually look at the number that's their price per kilowatt hour every month, it's different. And the Public Utilities Commission authorizes changes every single month. And so that's going to change. So that's one reason right there that being able to take control of it gives you the ability to impact your own finances with that.
Well, and you can, with Solar is Freedom, one of our slogans is, claim your energy independence. So you're creating a process where you are free from the increases to the per kilowatt hour rate that you see in your bill.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you, what is grid parity?
So grid parity is basically it's in a way a summation of what we've been discussing. So grid parity is simply when you put a solar project on your property, the per kilowatt hour rate that of the energy that your solar produces, that is cheaper than the rate that you're paying your energy company. So in Cincinnati right now, the levelized cost across the board that we see, it's about 12 cents per kilowatt hour. That's not just for the energy, that's with your rider charges, your delivery charges, and all of those extra things that you see on the bill if you take a deep dive and look at it. About 12 cents per kilowatt hour is what we see. With a renewable energy, a solar project that's on top of your roof, the levelized cost per kilowatt hour is between 3 to 5 cents a kilowatt hour. So right now, the energy that a solar produces is already half the cost that you're paying from your energy company. Okay. So when I sit down with someone in their home and I say, hey, this really at the end of the day, ultimately grid parity is the reason why solar makes sense. It makes sense because product A is cheaper than product B. And if product A is cheaper, it becomes less of a political discussion, and it's not at that point even an environmental discussion. When something's cheaper, people will look at it. And when I sit down in someone's house and I can give them something that will save them over half of what they're currently paying with an expiration date, that's grid parity, and that's why solar makes sense.
Absolutely. So it's just the straight up looking at the numbers. And I think that's really important because when our minds want to say if it's new, it's probably more expensive. And the numbers show us, it may feel that way, but that's not what the numbers show us.
Exactly.
Is that it's new and it's less expensive. And I think I want to mention, you talked about the levelized price. When we look at our bill and we see that price per kilowatt hour and it says 6 cents per kilowatt hour, that's just the generation cost. That's not the, Duke is also charging us extra for transportation and delivery to get it to our house. So you have to do another calculation to get to that 12 cents. And I just want to say that because some folks might say, well, mine doesn't say that.
The raw power charge, it's between 5 and 6 cents per kilowatt hour is what you're actually paying for the energy that turns the lights on. But when the energy is being transmitted to you, delivery, time of use, there's a large list of other charges associated with each bill. So you're 100% correct.
And I just want to say that because some folks will want it. Hopefully some folks will now go look at their bill and say, wow, I never really looked at these other charges.
Yeah.
Although when you do the parity cost, you're still coming out lower anyway. You're coming down to about 3 cents.
Yeah.
And so it's still getting much, much lower than that. That's not something that even just the generation costs can match.
And that per kilowatt hour price for a renewable energy project, that cost is going down. So when you say, hey, why is now a good time? We're in a really great place in this region right now to buy solar and have it really make sense at that per kilowatt hour price. And we know what's happening to the energy bill. I mean, we've seen the cost of that energy go up, and it's about 4% per year, but you just don't know. There are parts of the United States right now where people are paying close to 60 cents a kilowatt hour. So that would be almost 6 times what we're spending here in Cincinnati. So, my energy bill is about $200 a month, or it was. If it's 6 times that, I mean, you could be paying over $1,000 a month for your energy.
Yes. So getting this really does. You mentioned solar is freedom. It's having the opportunity to be disconnected to whatever the traditional energy market is doing, because you have your energy source attached to your house.
Correct.
And that's going to keep coming. That's fantastic. I really appreciate.
Are you ready to buy solar?
I learned so much about the details with this discussion, and the chance to find out that some of the expectations that, it's just more expensive. It's gonna, it's environmentally responsible, but I don't know that it would work for many homes. And knowing that for 80% homes, it does work.
Yep.
And when you do the numbers, it's not more expensive. It's actually saves money. So those are really important things to know. And I can't wait to I really can't wait to share this information and be able to share this discussion with other people so they can find that out too.
Well, and I think that the with thinking about solar as freedom and how it pertains to why does solar actually make sense, to me the bottom line is it's a financial decision. And I think that once people get to that place where they understand that I have another option. I have a choice that isn't, hey, we're going to send you a bill, pay the bill, and we're going to send you whatever we feel like sending you. There's an alternative to that. And the people that go solar now, those people are going to 3 to 5 years from now, 5 to 7 years from now, those people are going to say, hey, I don't have a payment for this anymore. My system's paid for. And that $200 bill is now going to be, it could be 100% higher, it could be 20% higher, but that $200 bill that's now zero, and now the solar system's paid for, you are receiving free energy into your house every single day.
Every day. Well,
Yeah.
your neighbors who decided not to do it are subject to whatever increase in energy rate happens in the market. You can still watch your latest shows with energy coming from your solar panels that are now paid off.
Exactly.
That's fantastic.
And I also like to say, when I sit down with a homeowner, I say, was there ever a time that you rented? And most people say, yes, when, 10 years ago or 20 years ago, I rented my home. When you rent your property, you write a check for your rent every month. You give a landlord a check. Well, that check builds equity in that property. It's building equity for that landlord.
Okay.
When you purchase your home, every single time you write a check, you're building equity in your home. So really, every person that is out there right now that doesn't have a solar project, what they're doing is they're just paying their landlord. They're just renting their energy. Because $0 that you give to your energy company gets reinvested back into your home or your pocket. When you do a solar project, 100% of the value of the money that you spend on that project gets reinvested into the value of your home. So you're taking a sunken cost and you're moving it over into an investment. It's like taking that $200 a month and putting it into an investment portfolio as opposed to paying your energy company.
So we're used to the idea of let's not rent our living space, let's own our living
Exactly.
space. But we completely take for granted that we always rent our energy.
Exactly.
So this will, or in our energy source, really, and our energy source can be
Yeah.
something we own with solar panels.
What if your cable provider said, hey, your cable costs $100 a month? What if they said, hey, we're going to continue to give you your cable and internet, but just take that $100 a month and put it in a savings account? Would you do it?
I mean,
Yeah, there's no reason why you wouldn't. So really, when you're with a solar project, you're reinvesting that sunken cost. You're just putting it into an account. It builds value in your property, and it has an expiration date. So to me, I think when I sit down with a homeowner and they say, hey, we're thinking about going solar, when we go through the things that we've discussed here, it generally makes sense.
well, thank you so much for coming in and sitting down
Absolutely.
and having that same discussion with me so we could share
Absolutely.
this with other people. We have been talking to Antonio Ranieri, who is the president of Solar is Freedom. If you've been listening to this and you want to find out more about this or you want to contact them to get more questions answered, you can go to solarisfreedom.com and you can find out more about this as well as contact information to send them your own questions. Thanks so much for being with us today.
All right, thank you.